You know, if there's somebody watching today, Jay, who's highly intellectual, who is looking for evidence, what would you say to somebody who's searching today? What would be your advice for them?
Well, I think for me, a lot of it is being really careful about your presuppositions, right? And so for example, the evidence doesn't, I typically say that science doesn't say anything, scientists do.
Ooh.
The evidence doesn't say anything. It's the evaluator of evidence, the jury, that gets to say what the best inference is.
Wow.
And if you're not careful, your presuppositions coming in color the way you see the science or you see the evidence. So when I make a case in the book like this, I'm using the exact same evidence that my atheist friends or I would have used as an atheist before to make a case. This is also true in criminal trials. I'll spend 6 weeks, we'll present all the evidence to the jury. The defense team comes in, they don't call a single piece of new evidence. They just want the jury to reinterpret, using different set of experts, the evidence we've already presented. So it turns out the evidence doesn't say anything. You get to infer properly. So if you're examining this for the first time, from an atheistic perspective, just ask yourself the question, are you being fair? Or are you allowing your naturalism, the idea that before I even investigate whether or not something supernatural could exist, I start off with a bias against the supernatural? That's not fair. I couldn't do that in a criminal investigation. I have to leave everything open until I arrive at the right suspect. So I would just ask people who are investigating, are you being fair? Or have you allowed your bias against the supernatural to eliminate that explanation before you even begin? If that's the case, don't be surprised that you'll always come back to your conclusions, because it turns out those weren't your conclusions, those were your starting points. You just never moved. And that's the question, are we willing to move from our starting points?